Hey guys, it's Julian, and today I'm going to be making a Tet Jon Hopkins style track from start to finish. If you want to hear the finished track, you can hear it at the timestamp at the top of the description, or somebody probably put it in the comments. I'll give you a moment to click on that. And yeah, so as usual, you can get the project file and samples and MIDI and presets, everything that you just heard that I'm about to create in this video in the description. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because it's already available. Yeah, man, let's dive in. So, the first thing I'm going to start with here is we're actually going to go to 119 BPM, and I'm going to just start with the kick. I have a kick sample here. You know, it's just like a nice, kind of more round, bassy kick, I guess you could say. I'm going to put this in, just doing straight quarter notes, just simple, kind of like 4 on the floor. Let's maybe even slow it down a little bit from there. Also, the video is getting louder and quieter. Apologize. Sometimes it's a little bit tough to gain stage these things. Cool, so now I'm just going to put a little bit of saturation on that just to kind of beef it up. And there we go. And then from there, I have some percussion here. I have like a few different samples. As you can hear, I also have this vinyl noise. We'll drag that in really quick. But what I'm going to actually do for the percussion is I have some Foley samples. I have like this jingling that I recorded. And then this random desk percussion sample, which you can hear is just... literally what the name would have you believe. It's just a bunch of stuff I recorded. I literally recorded this on my phone. I just had a bunch of stuff on my desk, and I just kind of jingled it around. And what happens when you do this is you get like these really cool kind of things that you just can't recreate, because essentially this is just completely random. I wasn't listening to a metronome. I wasn't trying to do anything. But you'll see, like, when we drag this in here, we're going to start to get different little, like, kind of rhythmic things that happen. Even just that, right off the bat. No pitching, no warping, nothing. Just dropping it in. We already get kind of like a cool rhythm. So you can see what this does. And this is like, a lot of times people have a hard time. I used to have a really hard time with this too. Getting that kind of like more organic sound out of it. This is how you do it. If you just stick with this, where it's like a recording and everything kind of sounds like it's in the same place, you get a lot more of that like organic kind of live like Tet style percussion. This is more like the Tet aspect of this video. I think I'll do more Jon Hopkins style stuff with the synths, although he does this a lot with his percussion as well. But yeah, and then we can just kind of chop this around here. Take like that. That's cool. The key here is making that sound too like loopy. Like if we do this, it kind of doesn't really work. But if you can kind of find some different parts here that go together a little bit more naturally like this, I think it works a bit better. maybe we can take this and cut it, and then move this over. Yeah, that's cool. There we go. And then I'll take that and then like try pasting these here. Alright, there it is. So now we've got something kind of cool, and I'll probably use that percussion sample some more later. But yeah, there we go. Now we have kind of like this nice bed of like organic percussion. So now we have like a texture in here. That's what this adds is like, you know, if you just have this stuff, like just the programmed stuff, it's not really that nice. But when you combine that with this, that is like the best way to really get this kind of sound. Is like combine the programmed stuff and keep it rigid where it needs to be with this kind of stuff, which is more, you know, all over the place and organic sounding. And you get the best of both. And then, yeah, we got to cut out some lowing on that. And then I'll add in some more stuff. We can get like a hi-hat. And I'm going to put this velocity preset. This adds some random. Again, we're going for more organic here, so having the velocity and really just the volume on that hi-hat kind of changing throughout the course of this really helps with that organic feel. And then let's also get this room shot here. Nice, and then I'm also going to sidechain the desk percussion a little bit to the kick. And the sidechaining with this style really helps because, again, when you want something organic, you want it to feel like it's very, like, breathing and kind of, like, you know, flowing with itself. So sidechaining different things can really help with that. Nice. And then you'll notice also, like, I made sure to keep this so it wasn't too much happening with the Foley percussion. Like, even though we do have that and it's pretty dense, we still have room to put in, like, a little bit of something else here, like maybe. Nice. And then I'm going to track delay that a little bit. And let's also put the add some random on that as well. And I'll change the settings a bit. So again, just kind of like playing around with it so that we get a little bit more of a live feel just through having random velocity. Nice, sounding pretty good. And then we can put all of that percussion into a group together. I'll keep the kick by itself for now. Put some drum bus on there. Just get it all sounding a little bit more crisp. You know, it's not like when you're making like a tech house track or something like that. You don't want this to be hitting super, super hard, but you still want to give it something. Just to make it all kind of come together like this. And yeah, we'll keep that kick out of there still. Okay, cool. So now we have a nice little beat. We have something to go off of. From here, I'm going to add our first melodic thing, which is going to be some chords, which are made with this kind of interesting technique. So what we're going to do is I'm going to get analog, and we're going to just set this envelope like that. There we go. We can turn this down a little. Cool. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put in like one long minor chord. We'll just do C sharp minor. There we go. And then I'll put the minor third up an octave. Let's do 2 octaves actually. Alright, so we got that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this random desk percussion track and I'm holding down control and then dragging it so that we get a duplicate of it up here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of the effects on that and we're going to mute it. And then what I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to put a gate on this chord here. So like I was saying, with this style of music, you want to feel like it's very alive and breathing. So just a chord progression where it's just playing like that over top of everything isn't really going to do much. But what we can do is we can take this desk percussion sample and I'm going to gate the chords and then sidechain them to that. And so the way a sidechain works with a gate is the opposite of sidechaining with a compressor. When you sidechain with a compressor, every time the input gets played, the sound that is being sidechained gets turned down. It's the opposite with a gate, like I said. So with a gate, every time the input gets played, the thing that you are sidechaining also plays. So what we can do is we can make these really cool gated chords this way. I'll put on audio from random desk percussion. And you can see it's a little wonky. You kind of have to play around with it sometimes. Maybe we'll use different parts of this. And we can shove this around too. And yes, you can hear how it creates this kind of more lively sound because, again, now we have all this random stuff, essentially just this input from the desk percussion, which was recorded completely randomly. Like, I wasn't trying to do anything at all. I didn't have anything in mind. My goal was just to create something random and then just put it in here and see what happens. And now we're creating interesting, like, textures for our chords and stuff just using that. So it's a really cool way to do it. Pitch this one down a little so it's a bit slower. And yeah, it's coming together. You can see with this, like, you really just have to keep sitting here and just hitting pause and play. But you can see it comes together pretty quickly. And then we make this kind of catchy rhythm, and it seems very deliberate. But like I said, like, it's all just random stuff being put into here, you know, and just seeing what's going to come out. And then you can tweak the settings on the gate too. Like, we'll probably automate that throughout the track. Maybe we'll grab some stuff from over here. Suppose you can skip through this part of the video. But this is what you gotta do, you know, you just gotta sit here with this and just find the right parts. Alright, there's a little vibe, and then I'm gonna copy the sidechain from that other random dance percussion. Cool, and then we can play around with the chord here. Now we can take this, and like I'll have it go down here. Maybe add another note on top of it. Alright, there's a little feeling. Give it some vibrato. There we go, and then we can have other layers on top of this. Like, obviously we need a bass, so we'll just duplicate that, and we can take the same MIDI and just take the bass notes, and then make kind of like a fat bass line. let's use operator for this. But yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the way that Jon Hopkins made the chords in Emerald Rush. Like, I'd imagine it was a really similar approach. And then I think it's just like, if you get a different sample going into the gate, then you would get a little bit of a different sound. Because his has a little bit more texture to it, but... you can hear it comes together now. Cool, I think I'm going to change that last chord a little bit. No, let's just keep it on that chord. Alright, sounds cool. Now, something I've heard in a lot of tracks from both Jon Hopkins and Tet also is they like to use a lot of drones. Like, when I'm making house and techno on here, a lot of times, on this channel, I mean, a lot of times, that style of music is meant to be very simple. It's meant to be very minimal. It's meant to be just, straight to the point. With this style of stuff, you have a little bit more room to add stuff. So, adding, like, a drone on top of here, for example, I think is going to make this sound really cool. So, we'll add in this one, which is just going to play C# minor. That's the key that we're in. So what's inverted? I'll put the minor third down an octave so it sounds kind of different. Might sound kind of weird with the track. But let's put a sidechain on it. And then I'll pitch it up an octave. Yeah, there we go. And you can hear what this does to the track too. Like, in terms of just musical depth, we really need something like this to bring it to life. Like, if you played a Jon Hopkins track, for example, like say Emerald Rush. If you played Emerald Rush without the droning chords over top of it, it would not really be like, it just wouldn't feel as interesting and as exciting. Like, that's how this works. So let's put a bit of reverb on this. I've got this FM sound here. Just 3 sine waves. Tuned a little. And then I'm also going to put this LFO on here. And we're going to put this on the volume of oscillator B. And then we can turn off the retrigger here. So that gives it like some movement. Alright, there we go. Just added a bit of drum bus to kind of make this fill out the space where it is in the mix a little bit more. And then what I'm also going to do on this is I'm going to get an auto pan. And what we're going to do, I've done this a bit on my channel before, is I'm going to set it to the noise setting. Which usually does like that, right? Like it'll pan back and forth like that. If we turn off the width here, you can get it. So now it's just affecting the volume, but you can hear it's like. And it adds something a little bit more to like that kind of choppy rhythmic thing that we're going for with this track. Since I think actually with this one I'm going to keep it just like this, just kind of soaring over the track. And then let's make another one. So we'll make this one with the operator as well. And then I'll put the auto pan on that. And then this will just play one note here. We're going to have this play. Let's try G sharp because that's the 5th. Yeah, sounds cool. And then we'll make kind of similar sounds to that last one. This to me kind of sounds like a granular synth almost. Alright, there we go. And I'm going to put some chorus on that. And then this one, we're going to band pass. So that's one thing to keep in mind when you're making a track like this. And you are trying to make it kind of dense and full. You know, you don't want to make sure everything fits into the right space. So, like, putting this band pass on here, for example, really helps because you can hear if I turn it off. Right now, it's fighting for a lot of the same space as the main chords and then the synth that we just made. But if we put on the band pass, we can kind of specify it to the low mid-range. Alright, cool. Just checking out my monitors really quick, seeing how we're doing so far. Sounds good. I'm going to turn the hi-hat up a little. And one thing you gotta keep in mind too is like as you're adding all these dense layers and you're kind of like filling your track out more, you just want to make sure that you still hear everything, right? Like, you know, we can still hear all those layers of percussion. We can still hear the synths, we can still hear, you know, nothing is like taking up too much space. It's all fitting together. That's the key. So I'm also going to work on this sound a little bit more now. Some erosion sounds cool on this. There we go. And then I'm also going to layer up the bass a little. So we'll keep this layer in as the sub. Like that. And then I'll also add an analog on top of it, which is going to be like 2 saw waves. So the amp envelope like this. And then we're going to put those through a bandpass filter with no envelope. Just like that. And then we'll saturate it a bit. And when I say a bit, I kind of mean a lot. But then we'll also cut out the low end on that after that so that it fits over top of that sub. Now you can hear how that really fills out that like low end. Let's also add in one little high note on top of there. There we go. That feels very Jon Hopkins-esque to me. All right, cool. So this is coming together nicely. Not too bad for 30 minutes worth of work. From here, I'm going to add in like an ARP or two. Again, we don't want to go too crazy, but we just want something else on top of this. So I'll just make something in C# minor. Yeah, and then let's play with the sound a little too. Alright, that does sound tight. Let's pitch it up a bit though. Let's give it some chorus. Nice. Now we just need to make this a bit bigger. Let's give it some drum bass. Alright, cool. And so what's happening with this ARP here is I'm actually fixing the pattern a little bit. But you can see it is what's called a polyrhythm. So if you don't know what a polyrhythm is, I talk about this a lot in my techno videos. But essentially, if you look at this, everything in this track is happening on like a bar, right? Like you have 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's when the new chord comes. Like every single thing, it's pretty predictable. You can tell when it's all going to happen. Same thing, like even with the drums. You know you're going to hear something kind of similar every time. So what's happening is we have everything else like doing that, but with this you can see it's restarting a little bit before this half note here. So it's like this. And you can hear how that sounds a little bit more exciting because everything else is happening, like I said, on a bar, but this is restarting in a way that seems kind of random, but really all it is it's just taking a pattern that's a little bit shorter than everything else's and just duplicating it over a bunch of times. But this really makes the track a lot more exciting. Because it introduces some unpredictability. And something else I'm going to put on this really quick is the Haas Effect. So the Haas Effect is a stereo effect. Essentially, the way you do it is you create two chains here in an audio effect track. You pan one of them to the left and one of them to the right, and then it doesn't matter which one you put it on. But on one of them, you put some delay. And then what we'll do is we'll turn the dry wet all the way up, feedback all the way down, so we're just getting one delay, essentially. Like, it's only happening one time. And then it's 100% wet. And then we're going to turn off the sync, and we're going to set it to anywhere between like 10 and 50 milliseconds or so works. But now what's happening is this is happening 10 milliseconds after this right here. And so when you hear them together, you get this huge wide stereo image. But really all it is it's just the same sound heard slightly different times in each ear. So it's really a good way to kind of set this apart from everything else, because you can hear before it and then after it. It's putting this in a different place in the mix. And then what I'm also going to add on here is this echo. And we're going to actually unsync it. And we'll do something like that. That sounds cool. Cool, and then we can play around with the sound a little bit more. This feels very Fortet to me. Like, he uses a lot of these kinds of ARPs in his tracks where it's on a polyrhythm, and then it just stands out so much from everything else. And then last thing, we'll get some EQ on here. Nice, and the cool thing is if we want to, we can just take the random desktop percussion and just put like a completely different pattern in. I just go crazy with it like that. I also have this other sample here. This like jingling. Maybe we could try some of that on this same channel. This is just the audio effect, or the audio channel, which is affecting the gate of all the synths. Yeah, let's grab some of these. Yeah, that's cool. Makes it a little bit more alive, a little bit less rigid. Cool. So at this stage, we got all our elements here. Now it is time to actually arrange them. So what I'm going to do is we're going to close all these, and I'm going to also get rid of these audio tracks up here that I'm not using. We're going to grab all these and just cut them and paste it all here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just grab something and start the track. Typically, like if I was making house or techno or something, I would just take the kick and start it here. But since this is a little bit different, we're actually going to start with one of these drones. Let's try this one. What we'll do is I'm just going to put a low pass on it. And we'll have like a kind of slow intro with that. Like we'll have that come in for 16 bars. Nice, and then we'll have this one come in with a low pass as well. And we'll make that a little bit longer too. Like this one will be coming in up to here, and then this one will be coming in through here. Actually through there. And then we'll turn on the automation lock so it doesn't duplicate the automation with it. Cool, there we go. So then what we're also going to do is I'm going to have the chords start coming up in here, like around here. And then we'll also grab that random desktop percussion thing there so that we have the gate. There we go. And then this is just going to be slowly coming in as well. Like all of this, we're just going to be really subtly and slowly bringing things in. With these kinds of tracks, a lot of times I find it hard to start them. But if you just kind of do it this way where it's like, you know, it's just kind of easing everything in, it can be a little bit smoother. And then we're also going to get like a reverb on that. I'll just automate the dry wet to go down. And then we're also going to automate this high pass. Just a lot of automation to like slowly bring this in. So we're not just dropping it right in. Beautiful. I'm going to do one of these here. I'm going to have this drone just kind of fading down. Cool, and then we're also going to have the bass fading up in volume through here. So we'll just get a utility to do that. And we'll just get like this. Alright, then we'll get that hi-hat coming in there. Nice. And then we'll bring this ARP in kind of slowly too. This won't just all drop in right here. Alright, and then we're going to have this just with like a reverb automation here. The thing with these kind of tracks, you know, you're not really going to use like effects. Like you're not going to have like a coming in here to like transition this. So you got to kind of get creative with it. So like doing some reverb and stuff can be a good way to kind of have your sounds go out without having, you know, again, just like a building it up or something like that. Alright, and then we get these and all of these. Cool, and then I'll also add in like a second hi-hat here. Like we can get this one and just do like yeah, just something subtle. We don't want to do too much with it. And then we'll also track delay that back a little. And add some random on it. Nice, sounds good. And then I'm gonna also EQ these a little bit. All this percussion. Let's reverse this. Yeah, now it feels a little bit more organic. Cool, and then I think I'm going to take this drone here, and we're going to actually move the note up to C sharp there. Or maybe we'll just do G sharp, but it's like a higher octave. Yeah, we'll do that, and then I'll also put this. Alright, there we go. So kind of mixing up the pads there a bit. Maybe we'll keep this one actually like there. Yeah, there we go. Alright, sounds good. So let's turn this whole mix down a bit because it's starting to get a bit loud. Cool, and I'm going to tweak this. I'm going to give it like a really small amount of automation on that release there. So it's just like kind of never exactly the same sound, you know, it's just slowly moving. Little subtle details like this are what makes this music interesting. Like when you hear like a Jon Hopkins track, this is the kind of stuff that he's doing to his synths to make it like stay exciting throughout the track. Because now you have something where it's just constantly changing. And it's never exactly the same thing twice, you know? Everywhere we skip on this, it sounds completely different, which is what we want. Alright, sounds good. And then I'm also going to copy that same gate onto the bass, since that's also being gated. And yeah, this is going to make it really tight too, because now we have the bass and chords with that same automation. So it's going to feel like really just together. And like they're one thing, you know? I think I'm actually going to turn the bass up a little bit. Yeah, let's do like this. So still moving at the same times. But now there's a little bit more depth there because you can hear the space between the bass and the chords. Cool, so at this stage, I'm going to do a bit of just like extra kind of final mix down. I'm actually going to do this on my monitors. One thing to keep in mind, I made this whole track on headphones. You never really want to do that. Like, you never want to just have a full track made on headphones or just made on monitors or just whatever. It's like, you want to use as many different things as you can so that you really know what your track sounds like and not just what it sounds like on your headphones or on your monitors. So, be right back. And there we go. So you can see I just kind of did like, some extra little stuff to kind of clean things up. For example, I grouped the kick and bass together just to like really optimize them and make them as full as possible. And I also mixed the bass a little, like we cut at 100 hertz, which is where the kick is punching, and then boosted the low end. I also worked like with the percussion group a bit, to kind of make that a bit sharper. If you really want those like strong kind of percussions like you hear in like quartet tracks, you really gotta sit there and like start with kind of smaller samples like this, like these rim shots, for example, are tiny. And even like this. And then you just sit there and process it and really get it to hit like on top of the track like this. And then I also added one more thing, which, well, I also put that auto pan on the hi-hat. But then I also added this layer in here. So it's just like an extra high chord layer. Just something nice that I thought could come in here that I thought would be, a nice addition for this part. It's literally all the same stuff. I just changed it to a square wave. It's an octave up, and I added some unison to make it a bit bigger sounding. But cool. So now from here, what we can do is we'll take everything and turn it down a little. We want to be hitting about, like right there, like between -4 and -6 on the master. So -5.49 is perfect. But cool, so the first thing that we're going to do for mastering with this style is a little bit more simple than it would be with something like dance music. Like, typically like in a house track or a tech house track or a techno track or whatever, you're really trying to aim for a specific goal of like fatness and loudness and just making sure that it's going to like really hit in the club like that. With this style of stuff, of course, you want it to be, optimal, and you want it to be as big as it can be. But you don't want to, it's not like you're trying to like reach this particular standard of exactly how it has to be. So really it could be anything. I mean, you could say this is good and then you just turn this up till it's hitting 0 dB. I've heard Fortet say before that sometimes like he doesn't even master his tracks just because like, he can get it where it needs to be with the mix. And then like I said, it's not like you're trying to make it hit as hard as a specific track or, as hard as a specific style is used to. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to put a little bit of saturation on here. And what this is going to do is we're going to put this up +5 and then -3 on the output. So here's before this. And then with it. So this is kind of what I was saying, like optimizing it. This isn't really doing a whole lot. Other than just kind of like gluing everything together a little bit more. It's not so much to make everything hit really hard or to make it super loud. It's just to make it, kind of all glued together a little more. Because if you get a saturator and do like this, hear how it's all just turning into one thing? We're doing that same effect just to a much smaller degree. And then I'm also going to get a little bit of compression on here. We're going to turn off the makeup gain and just turn up the attack a bit. And then like that is good. So that's just to balance out the mix a little bit more. And then turning the attack up is just basically turning up how long it's going to take for the compression to kick in. So this way, it won't be messing up the transients of any of our drums. Cool, and then the last thing to do here is we just get a limiter on here and then turn the gain up until we're hitting 0 dB on the master. So I'll push it like 1 more dB. And there we go. Now we have a really full sounding and fat track, and it still has some dynamic range. Like we can even turn this up a little. You can see it still has plenty of dynamic range. We still have, a very lively mix, but now it's as loud as it should be. And everything's hitting, and it's really tight and glued together sounding. So yeah, you can see, like I said, with the mastering, wasn't so much like when we're mixing techno where we're trying to make it, just hit as hard as possible or mastering techno. But it still is good to add a few things just to kind of like optimize it and make sure it's as full and as big as it can be. Cool, so there we are. We went from a blank project file all the way through to this pretty finished little track. Let's hear the full thing from start to finish. Also gotta hit save. Cool. So there it is. Like I said, we went from a blank project file to a finished master track in this style. And yeah, so something you'll see here is like, it's less about like techniques and specific ideas and like stuff like that, because truth be told, with this style, it's a bit hard to say like, I'm going to make a track that sounds like Jon Hopkins. Like, it just doesn't really work that way. And you can hear like, this definitely has a bit of my style in it and all that. But what is important to learn from this is like, the stuff, certain techniques, like for example, those gated chords, trying to make sounds that are a bit more interesting and a bit more textured and a bit more colorful than just, if we had just used some saw wave chords. And also the way the track works over time, this style is very much about creating something that's going to build and have this life to it. And like, it's kind of like constantly going. And I think that's something that we really nailed today and something that you can take away from this style for your own production. So yeah, that's me for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe, and let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get the full project file and samples, MIDI and presets, everything that you just saw in this video that I just created. It's all available in the description, so make sure to go check for that. It's right at the top, the Bandcamp link. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.